Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. In today's special episode, we sat down with Victor Avila, former ICE special agent and author of Agent Under Fire. He touches on China's role in getting illicit drugs like fentanyl over the border and into the U.S., how widespread trafficking is in the U.S., and much more. Let's dive in. Victor, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So lately, the U.S. kind of passed a milestone in overdose deaths, and a lot of that is attributed to fentanyl. And a lot of parts of fentanyl actually come from China. So as your experience of being a former ICE special agent, what can you tell us about how China's able to get not just drugs, but other things across our borders?
Absolutely. China has a major role in Mexico in conjunction with the cartels, as they're the primary producers and providers of the precursors and chemicals to the cartels that produce the methamphetamine and fentanyl, especially the counterfeit pills. There's over 100 super labs in Mexico right now that produce these drugs and that continue to pour into our country, mostly through our southern border. And as you mentioned, over 107,000 deaths of what I consider poisonings directly related to the cartels. According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, 1 out of every 4 pills in this country right now is a counterfeit pill. And so you have the surge in deaths in the young population, mostly in college-age students, which might not necessarily be drug addicted or just experimenting with a pill. They take one, it happens to be a counterfeit pill full of fentanyl, and they overdose on it. And let's not forget the meth. As I travel around the country, the methamphetamine is a huge impact on a lot of communities, especially when it comes to crime and the crime associated with that highly addictive drug. And I've seen it in towns that most people will not expect to the meth where it's ending up, and that's states like South Dakota and Montana as well.
And so on the topic of drugs, how is fentanyl so much deadlier than, say, meth or other drugs?
Well, first of all, it's a highly, highly addictive drug. And obviously, it takes a very, very small amount of fentanyl to overdose. And the cartels obviously do not care about the amount that they put in each individual pill. So you might have 2 separate pills that contain fentanyl, one where one person will not die, the other one will. And it is just highly, highly addictive, highly dangerous. We have a lot of police forces around the country that even being exposed to it by air or by touching it and absorbing it through your system, you can go into a overdose type of situation. And that's happened a lot to police officers and first responders. So it's a big, big impact that it has throughout our country. But somehow our elected officials are not getting that picture of the alert. And I believe it's a national security and public safety issue, because China is directly involved, and we know the issues that we have with that country.
And Victor, in your experience as a former ICE special agent, how is China able to get these fentanyl precursors from China all the way into the U.S.?
Well, the number one word that comes to me is the corruption that exists in Mexico. They're able to pay off at these major seaports in Mexico, able to pay off the government officials in Mexico to get those chemicals in the country. Now, it's not just the precursors that China is involved. They're involved in the steel trade and a lot of other trades, and also in the buying of our land. In Texas, just a couple of years ago, there was a major purchase of 140,000 acres of Texas land on our border in Del Rio, Texas, right next to an Air Force base. And once it was looked into, of course, it was tied to individuals tied to the CCP. And this is, again, a national security issue that China is trying to then not, through Mexico, infiltrate us through the cartels, but also with the purchasing of major portions of land in our state of Texas and around the country.
And so what can be done to counter that? Especially, is it securing the borders, or what can be done to stop it?
Well, ultimately, it comes down to that. A lot of the ripple effect that we see it is coming down to securing the border. It's not just about illegal immigration. It's about the this national security issue when it comes to China, when it comes to terrorism. Just like the individuals that want to come in here illegally know that the border is open, so does the special interest groups know that the border is wide open through Mexico. And so we have encountered already 42 individuals on the no-fly list or terror watch list that we know about. Just this past week, ICE was able to finally locate an individual, a terrorist from Colombia in Florida that was allowed to come into the country. I mean, we are at a point right now where this open border is affecting us in many, many ways in our criminal justice systems around the country, our healthcare systems, our school systems, and of course, national security.
On the note of dangerous individuals coming over, you worked in human trafficking and then you detailed a story in your book, Agent Under Fire. And so, how dangerous is that? Tell us about it.
Well, I wrote this book, first of all, to tell the story of the ambush that Special Agent Jaime Zapata and I went through at the hands of the Zeta cartel in Mexico. While I was on assignment over there, we were attacked and shot at over 100 rounds. Special Agent Jaime Zapata tragically lost his life in the line of duty. I survived being shot 3 times, and I know firsthand the threat that we face by these cartels. And in the book, I also talk about the human trafficking was my subject matter expertise, and how much of it we're seeing now in the sexual exploitation of children and child trafficking, the smuggling that becomes trafficking. It is a huge, huge problem. I rescued countless women and children from these horrific conditions, and the open border only allows these cartels to continue to do that. In this book, you'll read on the second part of it a lot about border security when it comes to the wall, sanctuary cities, asylum, things that are happening today. You would think I wrote the book yesterday and how relevant it is today.
And what are some actionable steps that could be implemented to really help counter this trade?
Well, one is the awareness. First of all, to understand what human trafficking really is. I do a lot of trainings to identify victims, first responders to know the difference between a human trafficking victim and possibly just a sex worker, which is a difference, right? And also human smuggling versus human trafficking. Human smuggling being a one-time venture to enter the United States illegally, when human trafficking is the continuing exploitation of that person. And so just being aware of the differences and what it is. And also, if you want to learn more, contact, there's a lot of great NGOs, non-governmental organizations throughout the country that dedicate themselves for anti-human trafficking, combating this horrific crimes all over the country, that you'll be able to get together with them and learn how to do something in your community to at least be aware that this is something that is happening, that hopefully you could have an impact in helping stop it.
And circling back to your book, what steps would you like to see implemented so that what happened to your partner doesn't happen to other agents?
That's a great question. I actually make some suggestions in my book. One would be a surge to the southern border of sending everyone that has any kind of training, not just ICE, CBP, but other agencies, to help in controlling and sealing the border. Once you do that, then you're able then to focus on other ripple effects that we see because of what's happening. But a lot of times, if you want to fight the battles of the drug trafficking and the human trafficking inside the country, it's very difficult when the porous open border continues the flow. We need to stop the flow and shut it down first. And once you do that, then you can really focus on helping these communities that are being affected. There's a lot of crime at the hands of illegal aliens around the country, where U.S. citizens are victims at the hands of these gang members, drug traffickers, and horrific crimes, that we already have a crime surge in the U.S. We already have issues of our own. Now we're having to deal with people from other countries and all over part of the world. I want people to understand it's not just Mexico and Central America. We're getting people from 150 different countries in here. And they're coming with a different mentality, a different ideology, and sometimes that does not mix in as they don't want to assimilate into our communities and causes a lot of friction.
And so once these people or these drugs get over the border before they're closed, what are some steps so that people can maybe recognize the danger they're in? Is there a way to recognize a counterfeit drug or someone illegal who's been coming over?
It's very difficult. I mean, these counterfeit pills are very well done. These they call them pill mills in Mexico. One of the most popular ones is the M30. It's a blue pill. It's probably one of the most that it's highly recognized. But you have counterfeit pills of Adderall, Oxycontin, you name it, that look exactly like the real one. So it's very hard, I would say, to educate your kids and let them know that this is not the same as 20 years ago where you try to experiment with the drugs, that nowadays you're playing Russian roulette with these drugs, because even the marijuana is sometimes laced with fentanyl. We have a lot of other drugs, cocaine and heroin, that are laced with fentanyl and causes a lot of issues.
And Victor, is there any last thoughts you'd like to add?
Well, I just want people to understand that the crisis at the border is chaotic. It is chaos. It is, despite what you might hear or not hear of what's happening in the border, it is real. It is something that is a ripple effect that is affecting every inch of our communities around the country. And it's important to be aware. Hold your elected officials accountable, especially at the local level, because eventually they will be making decisions when these individuals come to your neighborhoods that will affect you directly. So be aware and be in touch and be engaged.
Victor, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
That was Victor Avila, former ICE special agent and author of Agent Under Fire. And for those watching our full episode, joining us after the break is Antonio Graceffo, China economic analyst. He touches on how China's influence has been popping up around the world and how it's taken over an entire continent. We're now sharing a shortened version of our show on YouTube after being demonetized for more than a year. Our full episodes can be found on our partner platform, Epoch TV. To get a free 14-day trial, please click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer, and see you soon.